Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me today to talk about finding the future you. So let's get started. If you like what you hear today, please leave a like, subscribe, tell your friends, send me a message. Thanks for joining me tonight to talk about finding, or even better, defining the future you. No AI, artificial intelligence needed. I was reading a story entitled AI Has Shown Me My Future. Who could resist a title like that? It has AI, fortune telling, and positive aging. All interesting to us, yes? And the article, which is about a new AI entitled MIT Future You, it is, to get that up, I apologize. There we are, MIT Future You. Um, is the work of people from MIT Media Lab, UCLA's Anderson School of Management, and Harvard, all working together. So it was an interesting story, and it's kind of an interesting topic overall. And the concept was that by going through a guided interview of yourself, you would be better able to make your present decisions that support you better in future life because you'd be more aware of their effect upon your future self. So, kind of seeing into a virtual future you and then reflecting your present decisions onto that virtual future you. And again, there's MIT Future You, hashtag MIT Future You. So the initial results of what was then a study, when it was first referenced, they were kind of encouraging, with even short interactions resulting in 16% more motivation, although they didn't say motivation of what, and a 15% stronger connection with the future of your future self versus a control group who didn't talk to the AI chatbot at all. So, these are, like I said, they're encouraging figures, but I think these may be actually kind of low compared to mindfully getting in touch with your own vision, creating and living your own goals, and defining a life to your exact desires. But first, a little more about the future self chatbot. It's currently trained at the time the article is written on around 60,000 people from 190 countries. So, a pretty good sized sample. So, potentially has a nice cross section of the world. Of course, there's the usual inherent biases that it probably mostly included people who have access to computing and the interest and the time to work with something that's kind of comes under the heading of entertainment rather than need. So, there's always that kind of inherent bias in there. Also, the article's author, Miss Heidi Mitchell, mentioned that the answers tended to be generally pretty optimistic. She said somewhat of a Pollyanna, and always and some of them, were very obvious things like, well, take good care of your health. Well, thanks for that. And naturally, it wouldn't answer any specific questions like how much money will I make or whatever, how long will I live? Those sorts of questions. Just said, sorry, can't answer. So naturally, obviously, we really can't see into the future. It's making a bunch of projections based upon your own answers. So, what we have essentially is a specialized chatbot now, which by definition is trained on kind of trailing data from the general population. And from that, it's trying to extract and then extend to fit into your own background and into your own life based upon your responses to a limited number of answers. Now, let's revisit our own preferred method of defining our own vision of, basically a perfect future, working backwards from that future self to the present to define your steps and goals and constantly reviewing your own roadmap of success. Excuse me. Remember that one of the goals of future self was to encourage people to make better life choices in the present and so that they could live a better life in the future. And I think it would be difficult to have a better motivation to change than to start with what you hope the end result will be and then your own personally crafted vision of your future self. It's one thing to be told that your current habits may lead to less desirable outcomes, but think how much more motivating it is to start from the point where you've already envisioned your future and where you're going to be in 5, 10, 30 years, whatever, and then working backwards from that point. When you start from a carefully formed and trained vision, where you actively encourage your brain to work through the steps and then come up and continue to come up with solutions to the challenges, your brain is then actively and positively helping you to attain your goal. Way different thing than being told, oh, you shouldn't do that. Here we're saying, oh, this is what I want to be, and these are the steps I need to do it. All positive. It's well known that negative motivation is difficult to maintain. It's why New Year's resolutions rarely make it even to February. Telling yourself not to do something because it's bad for you just isn't motivating. Which do you think is more motivating? Don't eat that ice cream because you'll put on weight. Or, I see myself walking on the boardwalk in the sun. What should I eat to help me make my look helps me make my, look my very best when I'm doing what I want to do, right? Obviously, the second thing is more motivating. Your brain is telling you, this is what I want to do. Ooh, if we do this, we'll be able to do that. It's all positive. The first is a restriction on your life, while the second is a step towards living to the vision that you've already created for yourself. Pretty clear choice, right? Who wouldn't want to do what it takes to attain a desired future goal versus always telling yourself not to do something you like? Your brain is all about making you happy, and working towards your vision will make you happy. Telling yourself not to do fun things doesn't make you happy, and it's why negative motivation tends not to be sustainable. But back to the Future Self chatbot. One of its big pluses is to help you discover fun things in your future to help motivate you. Well, I'd suggest that thinking through your own vision would likely net you a lot more extensive, more important, and more motivating goals than you'd get by just walking through a series of AI generated questions based upon anonymized general data. You know what you've been dreaming about since you were a child, or what's some important thing you've just discovered or been harboring secretly in your heart. Those are all things that you have there. And you may not want to share those with somebody else, and you may not want to share them with the chatbot, but you can tell yourself, I've always dreamed of doing thus and such. And it may seem silly, but if you plant that in your vision, like we've talked about many times, if you plant it in your vision and give your brain some time, a lot of times your brain will find a way to make that thing become a reality, whatever that thing is. Spending some time, say over a few weeks, writing down the vision, saying it out loud, truly envisioning it. We've talked about this, smell the smells, see the sights, hear the sounds, feel the temperature, feel the water, listen to the clinking of the glasses if you're at a restaurant, listen to the waves crashing if you're at a beach, listen to the wind in the trees if you're in the mountains. Truly, truly envisioning what you want and saying it out loud is very important so that you hear yourself saying it. Your brain will figure out that it's important to you and find out a way to make it happen if it's possible in any particular way. And it certainly makes it much more real and more important than some possibly, somewhat superficial, unimportant goal that someone else has defined for you. To be clear, there's certainly prompts that can help, such as, what have you always thought about doing or seeing? And those things will start to get your mind thinking along. But usually once you start focusing on that and giving your brain some time to really envision and consider the options, you will likely be able to discover more relevant and motivating your own future self just by yourself. This isn't to downplay the Future Self chatbot, nor the psychology behind it, but only point out that they are, in some ways, trying to automate the process we always talk about, and for simply, basically, for simplification, reliably, specifically, our process is to help you discover your own personal vision, then define the specific goals to move towards that future and develop ways to keep you motivated and get you back on track when life's challenges interrupt your plans. Remember, positive motivation is far stronger and more sustainable than negative motivation for a simple reason. Positive motivation is trying to move yourself closer to your own personal goals, which is pretty much self-motivating because there's a built-in reward. You reach your personal goals. Negative motivation is usually based upon denying yourself. Denying yourself something that you like, usually, and it requires constant determination to do it. And that's just something you always struggle with it, and it's very difficult because you give your brain the wrong image. You kind of give your brain a list of all the things that you like and say, and you can't do that, and you can't do that, and you can't do that. And that's just not a fun way to live. By working to your vision, your brain already has the desired outcome in mind. And not only is that self-motivating, but since it's part of what your brain wants to do and wants to keep you happy, and keeps you safe, keeps you motivated, and it'll be busy coming up with alternatives so that you can still be happy and living towards your vision. Instead of, I can't have ice cream, you're all grumpy, I want ice cream, but I can't have ice cream today. It becomes, oh, there's a yummy fruit dish with just a little dollop of sherbet on it, and it may not be perfect, but it still keeps you happy and still keeps moving you closer to your goal. Your brain wants you to be happy, your brain wants to keep you safe, and just moving towards your goals. Positive motivation towards your vision is always easier to maintain. Plus, when you do get derailed, and it's going to happen, you're more likely to recover because your brain is more likely to see it as an unexpected challenge that you learn from rather than a failure. And that's super important. Remember, if every time you set some goal and you don't reach the goal and you say, oh, I can't ever do anything, that's very demotivating. If instead you have a goal and something happens and you fall off the bandwagon, as it were, and you're kind of like, oh man, what happened there? And your brain will think about it and go, oh, that was because I didn't eat breakfast, so I was super hungry at lunch, and that's why I grabbed the candy bar. Okay, so I should have a little breakfast. It's all positive things. So while the AA chatbot Future Self is entertaining and potentially helpful, if you really want to meet your future self, you already have everything you need. Namely, you have yourself and your own vision. You already know what's dear to you, and with a little thoughtful consideration, you can figure out the path to get there. It's just a matter then of defining the steps, remembering that sometimes the path may need to adjust a little bit, forgiving yourself when things go differently than you hope, and never lose sight of your goal. So that's it for for the evening. Tonight, your homework's pretty simple. Is go back and, if we haven't done it in a while, think about your vision. Make a vision board or notebook is usually pretty helpful. And remember to truly envision the future that you want to live. As I said, think about everything that involves that vision. And if your vision is to be retired on the beach, I'm not saying that's perfect vision, but if that's the perfect vision for you, then really think about it. Think about the sand in your toes, the waves crashing on the beach, the warm sun on your skin, smelling the people up having a cookout next to you, hearing the clinking of iced tea glasses next to you, everything you can think to make that real to you. Your friend sitting next to you talking about what a lovely day it is. Anything at all you can bring in, every single bit of every stimulation that you would normally have if you were actually there. Think about it. Write them down. It's important to write them down with a pen or pencil on a piece of paper. Much stronger remembrance in your brain when you do that. And then the next day or that night or whenever it occurs to you, or if you're thinking, oh man, I don't know what I want to do, and then think, read your vision. And again, close your eyes, think about it. All those same senses. Let them think about it. And your brain's kind of like, we're going to get there. Right now, we're working the counter at McDonald's. I'm not positive how we're going to get there right this red hot second, but I'm working on it. And it will find a way, and if any way is at all possible, to make changes in your life to get you to your vision. That's the beauty of working from your vision backwards. So your homework, like I said, go through, update your vision, think about it, write it all down again, and give it a whirl. So that's it. Thank you very much for joining me. Please remember all the many wars and problems going on in the world. We talk about it every week. Not only Ukraine is certainly needs your support in any way. UKR7.com, we've updated that page. Links to places that support directly Ukraine. And then another place we recommend a lot, worldcentralkitchen.org. They work in disaster areas, very, very active. In the United States, overseas, both wherever there's a disaster, they generally show up. They focus on food, sometimes shelter, but primarily making sure that people stay fed. And as we always say, there's also lots of places locally that always need help, whether it's money help or your time help. And if you don't have the money and the time right now, you can always just do something really super simple. You're walking down the street. This just happened to me the other day. I said something to somebody, and oh my gracious, their face lit up and they were just kind of like, oh wow, thanks. And to me, it wasn't a big thing. I said it from my heart. I wasn't making something up. And I just said, wow, you look really fancy today. And the fact that somebody noticed and clearly made their day immensely better. Everyone has the power to make somebody else smile. And so if you can and you're able, the links are great. If you can support those, that's fantastic. Support somebody local is fantastic. But even if you can't, just help somebody make their day a little bit brighter by just acknowledging them, saying hi, saying good morning, making a compliment. Like we talk about often, when you live outside yourself and look at other people, it changes your perspective on the world dramatically, because it stops being all about all the things that are happening to me to looking at the rest of the world and sharing your excitement for the world with them, and it makes their day better too. So as always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting and useful, please pass it along. Please subscribe and hit that like button. And if not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.